Wine to Five is partially funded by Albarello Luxury Hand Soap, an unscented must-have accessory for anyone who loves wine, cooking, and food. For more information, visit albarellosoap.com.
It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to Five. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
Welcome back to another episode of Wine to Five. I'm here with Steph and a special guest.
Yes, Michelle is here with us, and she is our third quarter #W25 challenge winner. Welcome, Michelle Miller.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, this is a good way to spend a Wednesday night, isn't it?
Absolutely. Much needed drinks.
Absolutely. Oh, much needed. Absolutely.
Yes, and we will get into that, but why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how you got into wine?
Sure. Well, I started getting into wine about 8 or 9 years ago. I was really big into Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley. And that's like all I have wanted to drink. I thought it was the best wine in the whole world. And that was my little wine box, and I loved it. And I found this wine tasting every Friday night. And I would go there every Friday night, and I ended up latching on to them, and I ended up working this wine tasting every Friday night. And whenever, I liked only my certain wines and didn't even want to try the other wines, and they kept, the guy I worked with, John, kept insisting that I try other wines, which I did. And, as you start to try other wines, you start to grow a palate. And so I grew a palate. And then as the more my palate grew and the more I got to work there, I realized, wow, I really love this world of wine. It's so exciting to me. So, I just started studying it. I started reading books, and then just went down the course of, I wanted to be, a little more legit. So I got my certified sommelier, well, actually the first level from the Court of Masters. And then I was like, I don't want to work on a restaurant floor or anything like that. So that's what brought me to the Society of Wine Educators, which I absolutely love, and went through that course online with Jane Nichols' first class ever online.
Oh, really?
To do the course, yeah. So it was really exciting. She did a weekly class like every Monday night, and so it was like from 5 to 6, and she really went over a lot of the points, and it was really helpful in studying for the CSW for me. And I was just enthralled with that side of learning about wine, and so then of course I had to go to wine camp.
Yeah.
So my first one was in Seattle, and I just loved it, and I can't see ever missing wine camp ever again. And so that's I ended up not working that wine tasting anymore on Fridays because it was just a fun thing. And now I actually do a lot of contracting work in wine. I work for a champagne house, and I do work for Southern Wine and Spirits as a contractor, and a couple other little small places from Vegas here and there. And so it's fun. So I have the best of both worlds. I have my day job, and then I have my fun time in wine.
And you're in Reno, right?
I am in Reno, yes.
Okay.
Where do you think you want to go with it? Like, do you have an idea of what's next?
Well, in Reno, it's really hard for what's next, because the problem is it's still a really small market, and a lot of people like what they like here, and they really don't want to, venture out. There's a couple places that venture out, but most people want California wine, and they want their certain brands, and it's very popular, and it's very hard to break past that. I thought I wanted to go into the education side, and I haven't turned that down, but, try to start with a local bar and maybe offer wine classes and stuff. And I thought about doing that, and I did get my certified somm this summer, so I have, so I'm legit with a somm. I'm more proud of the CSW though. That's just more exciting to me. I really love that aspect of like learning about wine and teaching people about wine. And maybe one day I'll be a CWE like you beautiful ladies.
Why not?
And you will be. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I just wish Reno had a bigger market, and unfortunately it doesn't. But so I'm just, I get to do the contracting work, and so, like I said, best of both worlds right now until I really figure out what I want to do.
I think that's great.
That's pretty cool. Now, you've been active in the hashtag W25 challenge, growing your palate. That's a term I've not heard before. So it's cool that you say grow your palate. I'm thinking mine's shrinking because it's like the more wines I drink, the less and less of them I actually like. I know, it's weird. It's weird. I'm really picky. So I was pulling bottles up from the cellar and I'm like, I got to open 3 wines before I find one I like now. And I don't know why that is, or if it's just all the wines I've had to taste this last year. So you're growing your palate through the hashtag W25 challenge.
Yeah, I like to always try for something different. That's like, again, the problem with Reno. But whenever I drink wine, I'd never want to drink the same thing I had last time. I want to drink something different. It's because there's so much out there. Right. It's just so exciting. And it's more fun to try something like, oh, here's this little island, like, what are the people on the island when they're making this wine? I mean, like, what do the vineyards look like? And it's always a story, and you try to picture the story, and hopefully you can get the story with the wine. And so that's what I love about the world of wine. It's so big, but yet so small, and it's fun. So
is there anything maybe that you'd like to try that you haven't gotten your hands on yet that you're kind of like jonesing to try?
Besides, like, the real expensive stuff, like a DRC, like, bucket list. Well,
yeah, right.
Actually, your last podcast, I think it was your last podcast, you had the girl from Wine Enthusiast. Yeah, she talked about the Retsina. I've never had a Retsina wine.
Okay.
So I was like, after listening to that and hearing that they could actually be pretty good, I definitely am going to go try to search one of those out for sure.
Yeah.
Especially that Tears of the Pine. We have a new follower on Twitter, and he says that's what he's drinking, his Tears of the Pine. He's a Greek, I think he's either in Greece or just loves Greek wine. And so that, of course, that goes right on your bucket list too. And I think you find the more things you try, the more things you want to try.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. For sure. Well, before we go any further, I want to know what you guys are drinking right now.
Oh my gosh, we haven't even gotten to that yet. Michelle, what do you have in your glass?
I have a beautiful Scotch. It's aged in sherry casks for 16 years, and it's really, really, really yummy.
Oh, who makes that one?
Yeah, Glendronach.
Oh, okay.
It's the Revival series.
Oh,
yes.
I have not had that.
I haven't either. That's going to be on my hashtag W25 challenge, I think.
Yeah, this has a real interesting story. I guess they sold the the Scotch, the facility, and they still had a lot of whiskey in barrels during the sale, and nothing could be sold. So anything that's labeled, like I think they have a 10-year, and this one's labeled a 15-year. Anything that's labeled those, you have to add 4 years because they actually spend an additional 4 years during the probate in the casks.
Oh,
so it's kind of funny. Yeah, so that's why they call it the Revival series.
Oh, cool.
It's delicious.
I love, too, how, Michelle, you've got the poster behind you of Domaine Saint Michel. I'm like, that is just awesome. Yeah, like I need to find something cool to have behind me because this is really boring. It's just windows and.
Well, what do I have? I have the World Atlas of Whiskey open behind me, so I could probably look up the Glendronach. And then like pillows from my chair and a half, and I got to get a bunch of junk behind me. But it's a good thing people can't see us because I'm sitting here in sweatpants. So. What are you drinking, Steph?
Okay, well, this is what we opened last night. It's a bottle that we brought back from Italy, and it's Fonte alla Selva Chianti Classico Gran Selezione. Yeah. It's a 2013, and we bought it at the Bamfi Winery, and the reason why we bothered to carry it all the way back was because not only did Justin and I totally love its like richness and its character, but it's not available in the US yet. So that's why we were super excited to like bring something back you couldn't get here. And last night we decided to share that because Justin's aunt was celebrating her birthday. And so we wanted to like have a little slideshow of our Italy trip and drink the wines that we had on the trip because we're so corny like that, you know. But it's really delicious, and it's going really nicely with the manchego cheese that I finished. It's not even here anymore. All gone. Very good. Yeah.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Val?
This is a sick Pinot Noir.
Sick.
It is sick. We ordered this one from K&L, and this is the Pyramid Valley Angel Flower Pinot Noir from Canterbury, New Zealand. It's unfined. It's unfiltered. They don't use the cultured yeast. They use their indigenous yeast. It is so aromatic. It's floral. It's got like strawberries and raspberries, and it's got, a little bit of earth and herb to it because it is a 2011, like I said, but it's not funky. So I think what's really cool about these New Zealand Pinots, and look at this bottle. It's got a really pretty flower on the label. And I'll put a picture of it in the blog. But on the back is a really long paragraph telling how this wine was made. And they don't go as far as to say biodynamic, but they do go on about the soils, the clay limestone soils. So what does that sound like? Oh, sounds like Burgundy, yeah. And they have vineyards that have never suffered herbicide, pesticide, systemic fungicide, or inorganic fertilizer. Everything with the soil and vine are timed to, guess this, appropriate stages of the lunar and cosmic calendars. Now that to me harkens to biodynamic, even though they don't come out and say it. Right. Their vineyards are part of the larger farm organism, and they benefit from the people, the animals, the energies that share their home. Their wines are raised by hand and foot, palate and mind. No commercial yeasts, no commercial bacteria or enzymes, no fining, no filters. None of that is permitted, and they just like to follow the grape's natural progress from the soil through the sun, the cellar, to self-discovery as a wine. And this is Mike and Claudia Weersing that make this, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I'll have to put a link to the producer in there. Yeah. And I don't even know what drew me to it. I don't know if somebody
I was going to ask you that. What drew you to that wine?
And, and it's like a $65 bottle with a screw top.
That's New Zealand for you.
Well, remember, in our New Zealand episode, we talked about that.
Yeah.
And I was ordering another wine on purpose for our anniversary, and I thought, well, let me just get this one, too, as a backup. It's the same year, and I've never had a Canterbury New Zealand wine. Hashtag W25 challenge. And I've never had one from this producer or have even seen it, but it is stunning. I mean, we are just in love with it. It's somewhere between, some of our favorite Oregon and some of our favorite Burgundy, but it's its own thing. And the acid is still really beautiful on this 2011. And man, for a wine it's not been messed with at all, it is stunning. Wow. So big fan of this Pyramid Valley. But of course, I've noticed a trend in our podcast. The last couple episodes, we were talking about something like Burgundy, and of course we don't have it in our glass. And last episode we talked about Brunello, and none of us had it in the glass. And today, guess what we're going to talk about?
Champagne!
And do any of us have it in our glass? No. We have it in the house. I mean...
That's kind of hard to drink by yourself, though. Well, because nobody's here to share the bottle, and it doesn't really aerate very well.
I have those. John's here; he'd be happy to drink it with me, which is really cool. But we've got those stoppers. The champagne you twist.
Okay.
No, these are the ones you get. I think Rabbit makes them, but you can get them off of Amazon for like $3 each. And they have a little thing that goes in, and as you twist it, it tightens. And they're for sale in our Amazon store. And it keeps that bubbly for almost 10 days.
Really? Oh, I'm going to have to look for that.
I'm not kidding you. I use it on craft beer. If we can't finish a bomber, I'll put that in there to keep the carbonation in there. So, yeah. So
that's a good idea.
There you
go. Might be going shopping after the show.
Absolutely.
There you go. Well, let's jump into the champagne show.
Okay. Without champagne. I love it.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. We wouldn't be able to handle it if we were drinking champagne and talking about champagne. I don't think so.
No.
But so let's start with, where is Champagne? Where's the region? And it's in the northernmost part of France. So it's like 90 miles east and southeast of Paris, and it's one of the most northerly wine-growing regions in the world, and the coldest. And it lies between the 49th and 49th and a half degree north parallel. And remember, wines grow generally between the 30th and 50th parallel. So in both the northern and southern hemispheres, right. That's what we've all, learned. So it's up there.
Well, it is. And remember the episode talked about the harvest and how things like early frost or late frost in the season can kill the buds or destroy the vineyards. This is one of those places where they actually do keep, they call them chaufferettes. Do you know what those, Michelle, have you seen those?
Oh,
No.
Like the smudge pot.
Smudge pots. Yeah, they look like little stoves, kind of, and they put them out amongst the vines to keep them warm or keep an ambient.
I did not see it.
Yeah.
Like a little space heater.
Yeah, they do that, and then they have these, I guess they're aspersion sprinklers. So what they do is they have these sprinklers. If they know they're going to freeze, they'll coat the vines with this water, and the ice forms around the bud and kind of protects it from the freeze, so that with little ice capsules. So they do that too, which is very interesting that they're in such a cool climate that they have to do that to protect the vines.
It's a risky business, grape growing.
It really is. We talked about, why I would never want a vineyard because I can't even keep the rabbits out of my carrots,
Right.
It gives you a clue as to why champagne is so expensive and why, for example, we don't have it open tonight, because it is an expensive bottle and there's a lot that goes into making it, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's a big, long process.
It is. Michelle, do you have anything you want to add to about the region? Have you been there?
Yeah, I was actually there last summer. Last September. So,
That's right. Tell us about it.
I was there during harvest, so I was really, really fortunate to go on the hillside of Rosy de Rices, which is down in the Aube region, and that's where they make their famous rosé wine. Yep. But they also make lots of grapes from there. I think the hillside I was on, they sell to M. Chouputier. He actually buys grapes from there. And it was neat because I got to walk down the slopes as they're harvesting and watch all the harvesters. And you can't see anybody because all the beautiful green vines. And so the lead guy told everybody, hey, jump up. And so they all stood up, and you saw all these people standing in the vines. And then all of a sudden they went back down. And so it was really just interesting. And I got to do the gratuitous cut one vine to say, I helped in harvest. And we had opened up some bottles of champagne and just stood there on the hillside and had some champagne while, everybody else was out working. But it was just an amazing experience. And then the city of Reno is just so beautiful with the Cathedral de Notre Dame there. And the history and walking down, they have the little cobblestone street area, where the cathedral is, and just to know of the history there is it's amazing. And I mean, the people there are really nice. I mean, some people do speak English, but a lot of people don't. I found everybody there extremely nice and very welcoming, and I loved it. I want to go back next year. I'm hoping to.
That is awesome.
What's the wine tourism like there in Champagne?
I'm not exactly sure. We went down to Epernay we got to go on a boat ride. That's where all the major houses were. So we walked down one of the streets, this beautiful street in Epernay, and we walked up to, I think it was Chandon, Moet and Chandon. Mm-hmm. And we tried to get in there, no, you can't come in here. And I think you have to have appointments to get there. And so it was just neat to walk down the street. So I don't know how this tourism is. I got to do what I did for the Champagne house I worked for. So I got set up with, the tour because they really wanted me to see the facility to understand where it comes from for the wine that I'm selling. And so that was, a luxury for me, but I'm sure a lot of people do go tour there. I will find out if I go next year because I will set up my own tours because I want to see different houses and stuff. But I did tour caves of Taittinger in Ram. That's beautiful. Underneath, it's all of clay, it's amazing. You can carve your name in the wall.
In the chalk, yeah.
Yeah, in the chalk. Sorry, it's chalk, not clay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is a wall. It's a wall of chalk, and and that's an interesting little factoid. We can just kind of get into the history and lore because I think that's part of what makes Champagne so fascinating is the history of it. And I have a little, just kind of aside. There's a book out there. It's free, and because you're into Champagne, I'll go ahead and share it with you. It's by Henry Vizetelly. Vizettelly, and it's called Facts About Champagne and Other Sparkling Wines. And this is part of the Gutenberg Project. So if you go to gutenberg.org and look for it, you can find it. And I will link it in the show, but it's one of these books that they just offer free to anybody. And I used a lot of their pictures in a presentation I did on Champagne. And it's so interesting because you've been to Rome, and this guy stayed in a hotel had something with a lion's name in, I can't remember, but it was overshadowed. It was dark because it was in the shadow of the cathedral. And he talks about walking the streets. And this is during, again, the 1800s. So if you're into history and you've been to Rome and you can envision him walking through these streets and talking about Champagne, then I think you'll really like it.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely link that up. But going back to those chalk caves, you see them in the pictures, and a lot of people think they're just cellars.
No, they're huge. Well, at least the one in Taittinger. And you have to go really far down. There's a lot of stairs to go down. And the temperature swing from, upstairs to downstairs is crazy. It's chilly. I needed my jacket. down in the caves. But then like, it just goes on endless. And then, of course, there's places walled off where it keeps going, but you're not allowed back there. And they have, like, I think 200,000 bottles there, but they said that's really only for show to, be in the caves because, their major facilities are holding millions of bottles. But I mean, it's all different sizes, like, the big, huge
Methuselah.
Yes. It was just neat to see all of the different size bottles. And, I took a couple pictures in the cave, and everything's all orangey looking. It's really neat.
It's fascinating. These were dug out by the Romans, so somewhere between the 1st and 5th century, right? They dug out nearly 250 of these, and they call them crayères. They can actually go, 100 feet down into the ground, which I think is really cool. So, there are just like miles and miles and miles of these things. But also during the wars, you said you're reading Wine and War right now. And then if you read Champagne, which also talks a lot about the struggles during war, and especially what these widows did, and we've talked about it on the show before. I think was it a Halloween story or a history? We did a history episode.
Yeah, history, where we talked about
these ballsy widows.
Yeah,
yes, the Pomeroy.
And,
my gosh, Madame Pomeroy with the gun. Oh my gosh, so cute. But it wasn't cute what they were going through, and a lot of times they actually lived in these crayères during the war.
Yeah, it was a safe place to be.
Yeah, and they wrote in Wine and War that sometimes it seemed like Champagne had been turned upside down. All the living was happening underground, while the wars were happening above ground. So they had hospitals under there, they had schools, they showed kids doing PT or physical training or whatever they're called, gym class or whatever in the pictures, and people giving birth down there and just living down there for years. And I think that
those same stories I just heard when I was in Italy too.
Oh, yeah?
Because of the caves that they have in Orvieto and all those hilltop towns that had to dig down and not just store their wines, but, they stored all sorts of things. But they even had, they made their olive oil down there. And, when they were invaded, people went down and lived down in the caves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Curious, go back to Michelle and find out what's the most interesting piece of history you pulled out of Champagne while you were there.
I think more of reading about it, but when Veuve Clicquot, like, she stored her champagne in those caves during the wars way back in 1811, and if she hadn't done that, she would never had the business that she had. And I thought that was the most interesting thing,
right?
Because as she walled off her champagne, and I guess that's where a lot of the people got the idea for World War I and World War II, they walled off a lot of their champagne, and that was the most interesting thing to be in the caves where all this champagne was hidden and stored, and we got to actually try it because it wasn't pilfered.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and I still occasionally find stashes of wine that were actually pilfered during World War II, by the Germans and what have you. And of course that's where the start of Wine and War starts, I believe, is them up at Eagle's Nest, Hitler's retreat up in the mountains, and him uncovering that stash of wine, and in this soldier that found it actually watched that wine being stolen. It was the 29 vintage or the 39 vintage? I can't remember which vintage it was.
I don't remember.
One of those vintages.
It was one of the in between. Yeah. It was insane. How old it was.
Yeah, and then he got it back at the. I'm not going to tell you how the book ends anyway. But yeah. I just think the history is real cool. But let's go back to where you were. You said you got to go to the Rosé de Ricy area. And I want to say a lot of our listeners probably don't realize that Champagne, and we alluded to it in the last episode with the Marc de Champagne, makes other things besides bubbly. And one of those things is the Rosé de Ricy. Did you get to drink any of it?
I did at lunch. After the harvesters, part of being there for harvest, they make this big, huge lunch. So everybody from the president from the Champagne was there, all the way down to all the workers. And there's this mama lady. She made lunch for everybody, so we got to be, partake in that. And they had the Rosé de Ricy's rosé, and then we had 2 different other bottles of Chateau Montadon champagne. So
poor thing. Way to hang in there and take one for the team.
Oh my God!
It was rough, but it really was rough because it was a long. Middle of the day and drinking. I don't. And they keep pouring you more, and I'm like, no. I just need. I just want to try them. I don't want more wine because it's only the middle of the day. We still have a long rest of the day to do, and so that was the rough part, but yeah.
Welcome to podcasting in the middle of the day.
I think that's why I have a pillow that says this.
Sipping easy. That's awesome.
It supports my back while I'm sipping.
That's awesome. I love that pillow.
That is awesome. Well, it's interesting to talk about this rosé because, we talked about rosé wine quite a bit on the show. And the Rosé de Rici is only Pinot Noir. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's only produced in 3 villages in the Aube. So, Récy-Bas, Récy-Haute-Rive, and Récy-Haut, which I thought was really cool. So that's it. That's the only place they make it. And it's a still wine. It's not bubbly, correct?
Correct. It's a still wine.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize they can get a rosé wine out of Champagne.
That needs to be on my to-do list. I've never had that. That sounds cool.
I know.
It was really cool. And just to be on the hillside where the grapes came from, it was, really interesting. And yeah, I loved it. I don't know. I mean, I guess they don't make a lot, so it's not easy to, buy. And I think, it's pricier for a rosé because they only make a small amount. But I don't even know where you could buy it.
I don't either. There's another appellation because they only have 3 AOCs in Champagne or Champagne. So there's the bubbly, which is the sparkling that we're going to talk about today. There's the Rosé de Rici that you had, and then there's the Coteau Champenois, which is 100% still wines, and they are from all 7 permitted grapes. So they make some red, some rosé from there, but it's mostly white. It's mostly non-vintage. And it's usually got the bottles have the village name where the grapes are grown. And I thought that was interesting too. So I would like to try a still wine from Coteau Champenois made with all 7 permitted grapes for Champagne.
That would be fun.
That would be so cool.
That's like a 2017 New Year's resolution right there.
I know, right? I think just that alone doesn't make, your head explode about champagne. It's like, oh, we thought it was all sparkling.
Yeah, that's cool. I've got to get over there. That is on my to-do list.
Yeah.
Have you been there, Val?
I have not. Nope. It is up there on a to-do list. And we're going over to Europe in January, and if it wasn't going to be in the middle of winter, that's probably where we would go. Champagne down to the Rhone. But we're going in the middle of January, so that won't be good, But there will be nothing to see, so we're just going to go straight down to Rome after that. But back to Champagne. I don't know, Michelle, what else did you find that you really love about Champagne?
Drinking it wise, or just the history?
The history. We can go to history and then we can go into drinking it.
Well, the history is fascinating because Dom Perignon, he gets credited for inventing champagne, so to speak, but if it was up to Dom Perignon, we wouldn't have any bubbles and we would be drinking 100% Pinot Noir. Exactly. So he thought Pinot Noir was the best grape, and that's all he wanted to have, and he did not want us to have bubbles.
No, actually, wasn't he called in to stop the bubbles?
Yes, that was what his job was, to stop the bubbles,
right?
Which is very interesting. And really, the people that invented, another fun fact is the people that invented, so to speak, champagne are the British.
That's right.
So, and it's a lot of fun to it's interesting to, the biggest region or the most famous region being Champagne, but they got to give credits to the Brits, which they probably don't want to do.
Right. They were the first ones to intentionally create sparkling wine.
Yeah.
And they did it in cask, I believe, which couldn't keep its bubbles very long. But then they came out with the bottle glass.
Right.
That we talked about on the show.
Yeah, the stronger glass.
Yeah.
But I think Champagne used to send them their wine over in the big casks, and when it got to them, they would make it ferment again or something and then serve it.
Yeah.
Because they loved the bubbles. I know.
The English have definitely played a role, even if they didn't have their own wine regions, right?
That's right. I mean, and even as far back as we go back, the wine's been part of that area since, again, remember the Romans. They were very important to viticulture. We know that. Everybody who studies Rome or studies wine knows Romans had something to do with it. But when I was studying all the champagne stuff last year, I found it really interesting that we never think about the fact that those wines, you're right, they weren't sparkling to start with. They were still. Like what I'm drinking right now. They were what they called in the 9th century, and I have a little note here, vin de la montagne. So wines of the mountain, and they were reddish wines made with the Gouais Noir grape, reddish. Remember, because fermentation, that whole temperature control of yeast eating the sugars, that thing hadn't been figured out yet. They also called it, interestingly enough, L'Oeil de Petrie. And we talked about Occhio de Peniche last week, Steph, with the Vinsanto.
Right.
So that means the eye of the partridge. Same thing. It's this pink color, just like the Vinsanto of the Sant'Antimo we talked about last week. And then they had the white wines, and they were white-ish, again, because they weren't fully white, and they were called Vin de la Rivière. So they were wines of the river. And these were made with today's Pinot Gris. They were called Fromenteau back then, but it's today's Pinot Gris. And they were kind of more onion skin, or like a Vin Gris color. And I think that's interesting because if we go way back a couple hundred years, champagne wasn't sparkling, nor did they want it to be because they thought it was like, I don't know, Satan or...
Right. Yeah, the devil's nectar or something because of the bubbles or something.
Yeah, and it wasn't even the same grapes either.
No. Pinot Noir didn't start showing up until the 16th century. And that's when it starts showing up near the village of Ai. Did you go to Ai?
No, not that I know of, no.
Yeah, so the people loved it, and the wine was still kind of a Vin Gris, because remember, they haven't figured out fermentation, and it was still cold, So fermentation would stop when winter set in, and then in the spring when it warmed up, the wine would start bubbling again, and that's where, the fermentation started again, and the bottles would start exploding, and that's where the divine intervention nuisance of bubbles started happening.
That's when they had to wear the masks to protect themselves from the exploding bottles.
I know, that is so cool. I mean, I just get so excited talking about it. But yeah, I think, should we maybe go on and talk about the grapes that are in Champagne?
Yeah, let's
absolutely.
do that.
Let's have some grape gab. Michelle, tell us all about it.
Well, of course we know the three, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and what they call Meunier now. They used to call it Pinot Meunier, but I guess we all took that Champagne class this summer.
Yeah.
I think, were you in it too, Steph?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great class. Oh my gosh.
That was an awesome class. We got to taste that one champagne that had all 7 grapes, which was really cool.
That was a bucket list. That was a bucket list thing. I was so excited in that class, I couldn't stand it.
It was, I know, the only bad thing was it was at 8:30 in the morning, and it's like you had to spit some of it. I mean, as much as you didn't want to, you had to.
I went looking for those notes just so I could go through memory lane and look at all of my little stars and my circles and all of the stuff I loved about it. And there was so much great material. I mean, even the handouts they gave us, I thought were really useful. That was a nicely done class for sure.
That was Mark, wasn't it?
Yeah. Mark Raship.
Yeah, he's gonna, hopefully we can get him on the show. He's a lot of fun.
He's very good, very dynamic.
I know.
He was awesome to listen to.
Well, you can listen, he's got a show.
Oh, he does? I didn't know that.
It's called Another Bottle Down, and it is actually a live radio show in, is it Austin? You can get the downloads too. So you go their Facebook page and you can go listen to their shows too.
Oh, wow, okay. Good to know. I will write that down.
Yeah, they're not allowed to drink on the show, rules and stuff, but that's why we got to get them on the podcast, because, no rules and stuff. So.
That's right. And I think it would be good to tell everybody that when we're talking about those 3 main grapes, that Pinot Noir is at the top, because that's the one that has the most plantings.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
And the numbers will vary, which is hilarious because it's still pretty much almost a third all the way across.
Yeah, in general.
Yeah, they're pretty
and
close.
And the other cool thing I think is nice to tell people too is that kind of what each one of those 3 brings to the party, right? So the Pinot Noir brings that structure and some of the fruit characteristic too. But the Meunier really is the one that does the fruit and the more suppleness of it. And it's also the one that's pretty hardy out in the vineyard, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's nice to fall back on, is that it's probably going to, even if in hard times, in a hard vintage, you've got some Meunier to count on. And then the Chardonnay, the girly grape adds the finesse, that pretty floral notes and citrusy notes.
And adds the acid.
And the acid, yes.
And I remember, God, I love Essie Avalon. She's a master of wine. She's Finland's first master of wine. And she did a lecture when I was doing the Champagne Master Level class on the grapes. And she described each of the grapes as like a woman.
Oh.
So, yeah, so the powerhouse, the Pinot Noir grape, we call it the powerhouse, that'd be like your athlete, like your Serena Williams.
Yes.
Kind of your structure, right?
Right, the musculature.
Yeah. And then the Chardonnay would be like your supermodel. Like your...
Supermodel.
I don't know, name a supermodel, like a Gigi Hadid or something like that. I don't know, lean and, bringing that lean elegance to the wine. Yeah. And then your Pinot Meunier would be that kind of your soft, like, mother figure. I can't remember the names that she used, and it's not something that you can quote her on because it's just an example to kind of give you an idea of what each grape brings.
That's fun.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
Any way to remember it is
any
good.
way to remember it, yes. Each grape brings something different to the party, of course, in terms of aromas and flavors and structures and textures and things. But what about the other grapes?
Well, I know it's Pinot Gris. Is it Pinot Blanc and Petit Messier? I can't pronounce that.
Meslier?
Meslier?
Meslier, and then
Arbane, right?
Arbane.
Yeah.
And that's like less than 1/3% of plantings.
Yeah, it's like real small.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would bring, though. I don't know what supermodels they would be.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's enough of it to even, there's a very few producers that even use them. There are some, like you said, that use all 7, some use 6, and all that. So, what about favorites?
Oh,
My favorite champagnes?
Yeah. All of them?
Yeah, right? Anything that sparkled.
The one that you pour in my glass?
Right? Mm-hmm. Well, I was lucky enough this summer, after passing my test, my husband agreed to buy me a bottle of champagne. And so we went to the store, and because I wanted Krug, and so he was going to buy me Krug. And then as we got there, I was like, well, they do have the vintage Krug, so I started to upsell him. And then so I was trying to convince him to give me the vintage Krug. And then I happened to notice in the box, there was this beautiful blue box. It was the Paul Roget, Sir Winston Churchill, 2002. And that's one of the ones I study, because you know how for their test, you have to know the champagnes and like the makers, like the famous champagnes. And that was one of the ones I studied, just knew it like off the top of my head. And I was like, wow, wouldn't it be awesome to have that? And so I upsold him to get me that bottle. And yes, so we did have that bottle of champagne, and I dare say, I still say it's life-changing. It's not only just the best champagne I've ever had, it's the best wine I've ever had.
Wow.
And it was that good. Luckily, I've had it again since. A friend of mine wanted, because I was telling him how great this bottle was, and for his 70 3/4 birthday, he wanted to have a champagne party, and he wanted me to pick out the champagnes, and he wanted this bottle of life-changing champagne. And we got the last bottle in Reno of that Sir Winston Churchill, and we were able to share it with people and enjoy it. It was still the best wine I've ever had. It's hard to describe. So, but I mean,
Wow.
yeah, everyday drinking, no.
No, but how cool that you were able to upsell your husband on the champagne like that. I love that.
It goes to show how great of a salesperson you are.
No, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But he didn't regret it. Trust me, he really enjoyed it. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool because he gets to come to wine camp and enjoy these experiences along with you, which is really cool. So it's good to have a partner that loves wine as much as you.
Yes, he definitely loves wine, and I like to take him along for the ride, and he loves to try new stuff too. He's not in a box either, and it's really neat that he likes to try new things all the time too. So it's great to have a partner that appreciates the fact that we spend a lot of money a month on wine.
Yeah. But they're enjoying it as much as you. That's like, John just loves this. He loved the new whiskey I had last week, and it's like we're both benefiting. It's something you're sharing.
Right.
You're not going to buy it and spend that money just to sit home and drink it like a little shrew by yourself, although there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need to celebrate a moment by yourself if you just happen to be. There were times where I'm like, there's no one here to share this bottle, but darn it, I'm opening it. Life's short,
That's right.
Agree.
Shall we move on to...
Yeah.
Well, what are your
Wine
favorite
Arena?
champagnes?
Oh my gosh. I had the Krug back in August.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
It is hard to top that.
It is hard to top that. That is one of my favorites too, but I just don't, because I like to try so many new things all the time, a favorite is like a moving target for me, I think.
Same
I agree,
here.
yeah.
Same here. The Farmer Fizz, I'm a big fan of Farmer Fizz.
Yes.
So even though when Chantal, she was on the show, Champagne Gonnet, I really like her wine. I've got some of hers in the cellar. And even though she doesn't consider herself a grower, and yet the book had her as a grower, they're still smaller production. I like the La Salle.
Yeah,
I
do
have
too.
some La Salle in the cellar. Pierre Peter is a really nice house. I love his stuff.
Bollinger is nice.
Bollinger is always a good go-to wine.
Bollinger, yeah. And I think they use a little more oak. I like was it L'Armandier? and the Pierre Paillard, and the zero.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah. I'm sorry. There's just too much of it.
Goes from
too much of it. I mean, yeah. If I could drink champagne every day, I would. Honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I agree. That would be my drink of choice if I could, but a different one every day.
Yeah, but Steph, didn't you get a bottle for like Christmas or something last year? Or you had a rosé that looked really.
Yes, the Belle Epoque
Uh-huh.
that my dad bought for me. That was so delicious. It tasted like strawberries and croissants, and it was amazing. Yeah, I loved it. Justin and I drank that in front of the fireplace, and it was really spectacular. But, you just mentioned the Philip Gonet house. So I wanted to make sure that all of our listeners know that we do have that on episode 37. So if you want to hear more from Chantal, we have a sparkling Christmas Eve champagne and traditions show that's very fun. And we also have episode 11 way back in the day. That's a throwback. But Val and I talk about bubbles and we bust a few rhymes. And so if you enjoy talking about and listening to us, educate a little bit more about bubbly, then check out those other episodes.
Yep, absolutely. I think that was the first time I rapped on the podcast, if I'm not mistaken. Like way back. Whoa, way back
but
in the
not
day.
the last.
Oh, let's hope it is.
No, I love the
No.
rapping.
I agree. It's fun.
It's good. What is on your wino radar these days, Michelle?
Right now, the only thing coming up is I have a fun event to go to, the annual Barrels and Bites here in Reno. It's a fundraiser event that they do every year. Southern Wine and Spirits puts it on, and I will be pouring some Wagner family wines, so
Okay.
that should be a lot of fun. But anybody in Reno can go. I think it's $50, and it supports the Boys and Girls Club charity, and that's a lot of fun. I look forward to that every year. And other than that, just going into the holiday season with going to be working lots of times for my fun champagne house. So get to go over to Total Wine, probably back over to California and pour some wonderful fun champagne. And it's going to be 2017 in like a minute.
I know. It's crazy, and I don't want it to come.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it there.
I don't want the snow to come either.
Oh, gosh. Well, I have a shout out, and that is to Sue Guerra. Is that how she says her name?
Guerra, I think.
Guerra. And she left a comment on our podcast host site, Libsyn, for episode 81. This was the episode with Matt and Shireen from Exotic Wine Travel, and she says, absolutely love this podcast about two intrepid wine travelers covering these underdog regions. So you can't see my air quotes, but the ladies can. It just goes to show you that you never really do graduate from wine school, and that is so true. Very professionally done, and at the same time, so relaxed and approachable. Stephanie, she was also spot on with her statement that Aperol Spritz are best paired with sunny patios and people watching.
I love Sue. She's great.
I think it's cool. And I think that brings us to the end of the show. So speaking of exotic wine travel, like we just mentioned, got a copy. Again, I'm holding it up like you all can see it, and I know you can't, but it's a copy of the Uncorking the Caucasus, Wines from Turkey, Armenia, and Georgia. And this is the wine travel book written by our recent guests, Shireen Tan and Dr. Matthew Horkey. Your name can be entered into a drawing for the book if you are already a Patreon supporter, or if you become a Patreon supporter at any level. The contest ends January 1st. So here's how this works. You get an entry for each dollar amount for the month of November and December. So everybody that's already a Patreon, we'll go ahead and put you in there for, if you pledge $1 a month, you'll get one ticket into the magic paper bag of joy that I use for our drawings. It's right here, the 1-5 bag. If you, again, like you can see this, you can see me holding this up. If you have $5 a month pledge, you get 5 entries, and then we re-enter you for December as well if you stay with us. And so the winner will be drawn during the first episode in January. So we thank you so much to our Patreon supporters, and we're sending out some Patreon love to our tenacious taster, Jeff E. from the hilarious drinking show We Like Drinking. And it's not 5 o'clock, we don't care, listeners. Thank you to Meg from South Dakota, Clay from Arizona, and also so much love to John in California. We thank you for being a vital part of the Wine to Five listening and sipping community. Our show would not be possible without you, our listener community. To find out more about how you can support Wine to Five show, please go to patreon.com, Wine to Five podcast. Steph, why don't you bring us home?
Yes, and please share Wine to Five with your friends and online community. We certainly appreciate all your involvement and feedback. Leave us a burning wine question or comment on our speak pipe. It's so easy. It's on our website. So you could leave us, it's like leaving us a little voicemail message. We like that. So iTunes love is always appreciated as well, and you can leave us a glowing iTunes review for your listening pleasure, because you're listening right now, and it's so pleasurable.
I hope.
Whether on you can listen on iOS or Android, and we're also on iHeartRadio. So share our Wine25 community with everyone on any platform. We're there for you. And come play with us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and Google+. And if you'd like to build your collection of wine books, especially like the ones we mentioned on today's show, you can find them on our online store. It's right there on our website, so super easy. And if you want to connect with Val, she's on Twitter at WineGal Unboxed and on the Vino with Val Facebook page and on Instagram as Vino with Val. And you can find me on Twitter at Albarello Soap and on the Albarello Soap Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I'm on Instagram as The Wine Heroine. And Michelle, thank you so much for being on the show and making all of this time for us tonight. Tell our listeners how they can connect with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I love seeing you girls, even through the computer. It's awesome.
I know. It's our wine tribe.
I know. It's so awesome. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Reno_Wino. So RENO_WINO.
I love that. Reno Wino.
It's good. It's a good way for people to remember it. I like it.
One more thing, guys. Don't forget to use the hashtag W25Challenge when you are trying new wines and drinks. And you, too, could win an opportunity to co-host the show with us and be part of this fun. So until next week, ladies and everybody, cheers!
Cheers!
Cheers! Yay!
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Wine to Five podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.